After building over 150 business websites, I've seen the same thing happen again and again. Most people get stuck because they don't know how an effective homepage is actually supposed to be structured. So today I'm going to show you the exact homepage layout that I use for my clients, what to put on your homepage, in what order, so that every section either helps a visitor book a consultation or become an email subscriber. The first thing someone sees when they land on your website is the hero section. This is the top of your page and it has just one job, and that is to tell your visitor that they are in the right place. Here's what goes into it. You need a headline that introduces their aspirational identity, who they want to become. Then you have subtext that describes your offer and how it solves their problem. You want to keep this short and be very clear. Don't be cute. Be clear. A call to action button comes next, something like, schedule now or book a call. And then often under this, I like to list 3 desirable outcomes. These are just sort of quick bullet points of what they'll achieve when you work together. Now, the headline on this section is really where most people go wrong. They write something about themselves like, I'm a certified life coach, or I'm a full service marketing agency, or something like that. But your visitor does not care about that yet. They care about what they want to become. So instead of describing what you do, in this section, describe who they want to be. So if you're a personal injury attorney, don't write experienced personal injury attorney. Write something like injured and overwhelmed. Let us fight while you heal. Here is what this looks like when it's filled in with actual words. This is a site that we wrote for Dana Owen. She is an entrepreneur coach for women business owners. Her headline is, being an entrepreneur shouldn't cost you your sanity. She's not describing her service here. She is naming the identity that her clients want. Someone who can run their business without losing their mind. And how much do we all want that? She follows it with very clear subtext and then 2 call to action buttons. The first one is book a call. And then the second one, which I didn't describe when we went over the prototype, but often we want to give them this option to have a secondary call to action if they are not ready to schedule a call yet. I'll talk more about that in just a second. And then her 3 outcome bullets are delegate with confidence, handle conflict with grace, and then finally feel fulfilled. That is a really great hero section that concisely spells out what Dana does. Next is your lead generator section. This is where you offer something for free in exchange for an email address. On this section, you usually want a headline that offers your free resource, and then you have a form to collect their name and their email. Now, here's why this matters. Not everyone who lands on your website is going to be ready to book a call right away. Some need a little bit more time, but they are interested. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. So if the only option on your page is book a call, you're going to lose those. But a lead generator gives them a low risk first step. It might be a free guide or a quiz or even like a short video training, something that helps them with a quick win and gets them on your email list so that they can stay in your world. And here's what to remember. The best lead generators don't just solve a problem. They solve one problem and then open the loop for the next one. So your lead generator gives them a win. It builds trust, but it also naturally gets them to think, okay, now I need help with the next step, which is going to be, working with you, hopefully. Dana's lead generator is a free workbook. It teaches her science-backed framework for helping women in business, identify clear next steps to any business problem that they have in like 5 minutes or less. So that gives a quick win. It opens the loop for the coaching to be the next thing. And it builds her authority because the language matches exactly what her audience cares about. The next section is one that a lot of people leave out, but it's actually one of the most important sections on your homepage, and that is your negative stakes section. Now, you might be thinking, Jennie, I don't want to be negative on my website. Why do we have to talk about the negative things? But the thing is, if you can describe your ideal client's problem better than they can, then they will automatically assume that you have a really good solution to that problem. And that is why we always have negative stakes. So what goes here? First, you want to have a headline that shows what your client's life looks like without your service. Then give them a few bullet points that list specific, relatable scenarios or frustrations that they might be dealing with. You want these to be very scannable. People don't tend to read big paragraphs of text on a website these days. And then you repeat your call to action buttons on this section as well. You can see how Dana does this. Her headline, when working harder isn't working, and then she gets specific. I was constantly putting out fires instead of building something meaningful. My family only knew the impatient defensive version of me. I started to wonder if I was the common denominator in every problem. I mean, reading that, you either feel seen or you know someone who does. By describing this pain so accurately, she shows that she understands the reader's world, and often that builds trust faster than listing all of your certifications. notifications. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, I'm starting to get this structure, but I'd like some help to actually write this, I made a free fillable resource called the Website Copy Planner that walks you through each of the sections that we're talking about today. It gives you writing prompts for each one. And I will also send you the wireframe that we're looking at so that you can study it. You can get that at jennielakenan.com/copy planner. And I'll also put the link in the description. Now we flip the script. We do that in your value proposition section. You've just painted the picture of what your audience's problems are. And then this section shows them what becomes possible when they work with you. First, you need a headline that shows how you can turn things around. Then a bit of subtext explaining how you help. And then you give 3 very specific benefits, each with a short description underneath it. The key here is to focus on benefits, not features. So don't write weekly 60-minute coaching sessions. That's a feature. Instead, write the outcome that they actually care about. Dana's headline in her value proposition section says, a path from overwhelm to ownership. And her benefits are not descriptions of her coaching package. They are, learn to separate yourself from your business. Get a personalized plan that works. Build your team. Each one has a short explanation underneath it that kind of expands on the outcome. She's not listing features here. She is painting a picture of what changes when they work with her. And that is what this section is meant to do. Now, at this point, your visitor is probably interested, but they have 2 questions running through their mind. First, does this person actually understand what I'm going through? And B, are they actually qualified to help me? This section seeks to answer both of those questions, and we call it the empathy and authority section. First, you show empathy. You validate what they're feeling. You show that you understand their pain points and that you're actively listening. And then you pivot to authority. You mention your training and experience that actually makes you qualified to help with this topic. This isn't about bragging about your certifications. It's about answering the question, why are you the right person to guide them? Dana had so much that she actually wanted us to say in this section that we decided to split it into 2 sections. The first part opens with her story, running a construction equipment rental company as a single mom in Tennessee. She talks about facing down the contractors who didn't believe that she even owned the place, firing people who undermined her daily, and holding her ground when bigger competitors tried to force her out, all while getting her kids to school on time. That is empathy. You read that and you think, okay, yeah, Dana gets how I'm feeling. Then she has a second section where we pivoted to authority. She has a master's in restorative practices, 25 plus years of real business experience, and she ties it all into why she founded her coaching practice. And this is a really good example of seasoning this framework to taste. The framework gives you, these specific sections, but if you have a story this strong, give it room to breathe. Now, I do find this empathy and authority section is often the hardest for business owners to write because we're talking about ourselves. And for a lot of us, that can be really hard. It can bring up feelings of imposter syndrome and whatnot. My advice is just don't overthink it. Imagine that you're sitting across from a really good business friend talking about your story and your why, and write from there. I was at a conference a while back where a really successful coach was asked what she would do differently if she had to start her business over. And she said, I wish I had perfected less and implemented faster. And I think about that encounter all the time. Your copy doesn't have to be perfect to be effective. It just has to be clear and honest and launched. Next up is your testimonials section. So the job of this section is really simple. It increases your authority. You've already shared your credentials, your story, how you help, and testimonials let someone else confirm all of that. In the wireframe, you can see this placeholder, before coaching, I had this problem, and then I worked with this coach, or I worked with this service provider, and I got such and such result. That's sort of like the before, during, and after picture that you want to paint with your testimonials. You want to include the client's name and a title that's relevant to your niche, if possible. And we don't show it here in the wireframe, but if you can get a little photo to put next to it, even better. And here is a pro tip on the title. You want to make it specific to your niche. So instead of saying, Nicole, coaching client, write something like Nicole, parent of a 14-year-old, if you're a parenting coach, or Joe, physical therapist practice owner, if you're like a bookkeeper or something. That helps your visitor self-identify and think, oh, that person is just like me. They work with people like me. Now, Dana's clients preferred to stay a little bit more anonymous, so she just uses first name and initials. That's fine too. You work with what you've got. The testimonials themselves are still really powerful because they're very specific in the transformation. Now, if you don't have testimonials yet, my advice to you would be to go get some. do a free coaching session for someone this week, or give a free audit. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to overthink it. Just go do it and don't skip this section. Now, if someone is still reading at this point, they're probably thinking, okay, I'm interested, but what actually happens next? And that is what the plan section answers. This is where you give them a plan. And it always has 3 steps. Human brains are wired to process information in groupings of 3. That's why we have 911 and stop, drop, roll and other memory tools like that. 3 steps also helps to remove the fear of the unknown and reduce friction between, where they are now and where we want them to be, where they want to be in working with us. The wireframe lays this all out. First, second, third step goes here, each with a short explanation of how it works, using very simple words. Dana's 3 steps are: step 1, book your discovery call. Step 2, get your personalized 90-day roadmap. And then step 3, start living the life that you have been working for. You can definitely customize this to be your own process, but the structure is going to stay the same. Just give them 3 clear steps so they know exactly what working with you looks like. By the way, if you want a website template that already has this layout built in so you don't have to start from scratch, I do sell website templates. I'll put the link to those in the description. And then we have our last section. If a visitor has scrolled all the way to the bottom of the page, we know they're interested. This is where you bring the whole story together and give them one final push in your explanatory paragraph. I actually like to use a specific script for this, and you can see it right here in the wireframe. So it says, I know you want to achieve this transformation. To do that, you need to, get the thing you want. However, the challenge lies in the external problem, leaving you feeling negatively. And I believe that, you shouldn't have to deal with that. I understand because of my empathy with my expertise. I guide you through my 3 steps. So take action now with your direct call to action, or you can also, get my guide. Now, I know that looks like a lot. So when we're actually writing copy here, we often massage the copy in this section so it's not too wordy. But here's the secret. You're not writing anything new for this section. You're just condensing what you've already said in the previous 7 sections into one very short paragraph. It's a summary that just kind of ties the whole page together. Dana's headline here is, every entrepreneur deserves to feel fulfilled. And then she hits the major beats. She restates the transformation. She reminds them of her authority. She walks them through the plan one more time, and then ends with a clear call to action to book a call. Plus, she still has that download the guide as the secondary button for people who aren't ready to book a call yet. Now, I want to answer a few questions that people often ask when I show them this structure. First, what if you offer multiple services? If you're just starting out, my advice to you is to focus your homepage on one major service and don't try to list them all here. And that's because one clear message is going to convert a lot better than people getting confused because they don't know which offer is a good fit for them. If you have multiple services, those can definitely live on a separate work with me page, or you can even just encourage them to book a call. And then on the call, you diagnose which offer they need and you offer that to them on the call. But for your homepage, I'd often just recommend, one service with one specific path to book a call. Another question that I see a lot is, what about pricing? Should I list that on my page? I almost always say no. Save pricing for the consult, because then you have the chance to explain to someone the value of what you actually are offering before they see a number and just click away. If someone lands on your homepage and the first thing that they see is a price with no context, they're going to judge it against whatever random number is in their head. The consult really is a better place to have that conversation. If you really want to, you can have implied pricing on, like your intake questionnaire. That way they have an idea of what you're probably going to charge. But even that in the beginning, I think is overkill. Another question that I see sometimes is, what is the difference between a homepage and a landing page? Your homepage is your front door. It's for anyone who finds you through Google or social media or a referral. It needs to speak broadly to your ideal client and guide them to working with you. A landing page, however, is built for one specific campaign, like a webinar or an opt-in. This framework that I showed you is for the homepage. That's the one page that matters the most, in my opinion, when you're getting started. The last question that I see a lot is, what about mobile? Won't all this text look cluttered on a phone? And actually, no. I'm going to show you Dana's site here. This is one of the things that I love about most modern page builders is that they can automatically stack sections on a phone so that it flows really well. Just make sure that you preview and adjust your site for mobile before you launch. That's a step I see a lot of people miss. Now, every one of these sections in this framework depends on knowing your ideal client really well. If you're not clear on that, then the copy can be quite a challenge to write. So before you sit down to write, figure out who you're writing for. I made a video that shows you how to use AI actually to research your ideal client's pain points and figure out the language that they use to describe them. So watch that one next.